Taking only one of these, short a, we will include all a tokens before consonants. Look at table 3 on short a gliding. Here we see that the two extremes of gliding are held by the older upper class at 44% at the top, a woman, and 2% at the bottom, a man. In the same age group, the working class women, born between 1890 and 1911, cluster in the high gliding end with 30% and 26%, while the working class older men cluster in the lower end at 15 and 20%. However, the grandchildren of those people present quite a different picture. And while the working class girl is right up there with the older upper class lady with 32% gliding, the upper class girl clusters down near the bottom at 11%, just above the upper class boy at 8. Meanwhile, the working class boy at 19% glides more than the rural working class man. What this change in values seems to indicate is that gliding on short vowels or drawling has become more a working class phenomenon rather than a feminine phenomenon as it was shown in table 3. Looking yet more closely, and the data not included here, drawling turns out to be a feature of localness and intimacy. Consequently, as the upper class identifies with a less local, more formal speech, they're moving away from drawling. At the same time, the working classes become more overtly local. Yet another one of our southern vowels is the long open O of call, off, and law, which has a back up glide, in contrast to the unglided short O of cot, hot, and shot. That is, we have caught versus cot, a contrast that has weakened or disappeared in other varieties of North American English. This contrast, however, is now eroding into sound. It seems that the long open O of caught distinguishes older speakers, those born before World War II, from younger speakers. Among younger speakers, the upper class now has begun to lose the contrast, dropping the back glide so that the vowel is sometimes indistinguishable from the short O of cot. This leaves the local working class again as a holdout from homogenization. They are now the main young speakers with the back glide on open O. See Table 4, which shows the progression from 100% back gliding for those born between 1890 and 1911 to 13% for the upper class, male and female, born in the 1970s. Here, too, we see that in general, the heavier gliders are either older women, working class women, or rural men and women. It's not a perfect progression, but it's clearly a trend. The last of our characteristic southern vowels is the unglided U of tune due to news. This has never had any noticeable social significance that I'm aware of. Now, however, it's developed into a feature of working class speech in the younger generation. Formerly, it was simply the normal way to pronounce tune due to news. Look at Table 5. Regardless of social class, all the older speakers, that is, born between 1890 and 1911, glided onto the vowel. However, for those born in the 1950s and 1970s, this has changed. The working class speakers have 100% gliding onto the vowel, as do all the older speakers. But the upper class, whether born in the 50s or born in the 1970s, has 12% gliding at the most, but often not at all. So far, we've been looking at individual sounds that are changing over time. Now let's look at the larger pattern of vowel shifting across the years. In 1972, William LeBeau and his team showed that there was a general shift going on in regard to the vowels of the southern states, as well as in southern varieties of English around the world. This rotation appears to be going in the opposite direction of the shifting in the northern cities of the U.S. Figure 1 on the last page of your handout shows the schema in general outline. The short front vowels are raising and becoming more peripheral, while the long front vowels are centralizing and dropping. The description of vowel shifts given there fits perfectly with the Aniston data, which adds time depth to the shift. Taking two individuals from the social extremes of age, gender, and social status, we can see that the upper class man born in 1882 has a more or less traditional set of vowels in regard to their location in vowel space. In contrast, the working class urban teenage girl, who was born in 1956, has a radically changed set of vowels with a short I in high front position, with E and A somewhat central and lower. The other speakers range somewhere in between the two, with working class, especially women, leading the changes according to their age group. For instance, the vowel peaks for upper class women born in the 1950s have about the same location in vowel space, that is, not counting the on or off glides, as the working class women in the 1890s. So now what can we make of these changes? Obviously, we have both linguistic motivations and social motivations for these changes. Linguistically speaking, all these changes have occurred or are occurring in other parts of the English-speaking world, as well as in other languages. R is notoriously unstable and variable. R-lessness has been receding in New York City and in New England and in New York City among the upper middle class, for instance. The addition and subtraction of vowels is not new, nor is the shifting of vowels through vowel space. Similar shifts can be observed in Southern England and in Australia, for example. What is special here is the social motivation for these sound changes. While the only variables subject to comment are R-lessness, the long I, and drawing, so there could be a change from above aspect to these changes, the other changes are taking place below the radar, so to speak, and are therefore interesting as unconscious reflections of community norms.